All right, well, we've done a little bit so far with dividing polynomials. And so far, when we've gotten our answers, we've gotten solid answers with no remainders, which means at the end, we've done all of our division, we zero everything out, and there's no remainder left. Well, what we're going to look at today is dividing polynomials with remainders. So when you don't zero it out, when you get a remainder, basically how we handle that. So here's a basic dividing polynomial setup. We got a trinomial here divided by a binomial, so something we're kind of used to at this point. So let's go ahead and write it out. So we're going to kind of set it up in our long division form here. I'm going to put our little bar here and we're going to write it in. So I'm going to write my first trinomial here inside the box. We're going to go with x squared minus 7x minus 11. And then on the outside, we're going to divide by x minus 8. So I put that there. We're used to this. We've seen it before. So let's go with our first step. So remember, we kind of have our divide, not a great D. There you go. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. And so remember, x can't, the 8, x minus 8, can't go into all of this right over here, but we can work with the x. The x can go in to the first and even the second terms we have, because x can go into a like term or go into this x. So let's look at the first terms. X can go into x squared how many times? Well, it's going to go in x times. X times 2 would get you x squared, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. So remember, once we do our division step right over here, what we're going to do is come in and multiply. So we multiply, we're going to say, hey, first, how many times, or what is x times x there? Well, x times x at the bottom is going to get you x squared. And then after that, we're going to take x and multiply it by negative 8. Make sure you include the negative there. X times negative 8 is minus 8x. And after we multiply, we got to get to the subtract. So when we subtract, I'm going to go ahead and put our parentheses with a little bit of space. And then we got to throw the subtraction sign out here, and we're going to remember to change our signs, okay, because that can kind of affect what we have. So remember, that means the negative here would kind of go to the inside and change that right there to a negative x squared. And then we bring around over here, it's going to actually change that subtraction sign and make that a plus, okay? I'm going to kind of wipe those out real quick. Get rid of all that, and now we can set it up, subtract, and see what we get, all right? Well, right here, x squared, that's just going to cancel out. It'd get us a 0, but I'm not going to put it. When you look at this other section right over here, negative 7x plus 8x, well, that's going to get us just a regular x. It would be 1x, but remember, we kind of just take away the 1. We're doing algebra, and we're just left with an x. And after we do the subtraction step, we do the bring down step. So we're going to bring down this negative 11, or this minus 11, and we're going to set this up and kind of get back to the beginning. So again, we're going to look at our first terms, x and x. That should work out pretty nicely. X goes into itself, or goes into x positive 1, a plus 1 out there in the end. And then, since I've got my divide, we can go into our multiply step here. And let's do that. So I'm doing 1 times x. Well, 1 times x gets you x here. And then we're going to do 1 times negative 8. And then check how this is a little different. So 1 times negative 8 is going to get negative 8 here. And previously, when we set this up, we got our multiplication. We're going to go to our subtraction step. I'm going to set this up. We're going to come in here with the parentheses, and we can kind of change our signs around, subtract. Well, that'll carry over and give me a subtraction here. That'll carry over and give me a plus sign there. I'm going to kind of clean that up a little bit for you guys. Well, what's going to happen here, previously everything has been kind of zeroing out. Well, what's going to happen is we get a 0 out there, but right here, where we have negative 11 plus 8, negative 11 plus 8 is going to get you a negative 3, just a remainder of negative 3. And we can't divide from there. This x first term cannot go into a negative 3 because it doesn't have an x. So we're just done and we have a remainder. So how do we write that answer? Well, it's going to look like this, okay? We still have our answer, our main answer up at the top. So when we write our answer, I'll do it in bold over here. We're going to get x plus 1 Now we're gonna pay attention to what we have as our remainder because we're gonna write that next. It is a minus, it's a negative 3, so we're gonna put kind of like a minus 3 here. So I have x plus 1, and I'm gonna put minus 3, and we're gonna kind of write it like a fraction. 3 over, and we're gonna put it over our value that we divided by, right over here, our x minus 8. So I'll just put my x minus 8 here. And there you go. We've written the answer. This is the full answer to what we'd have. I can come in here and kind of box it in for you guys or whatever, but there's the answer. Of course, the solid answer came from there. We took the remainder in red and kind of threw it at the top. Don't forget that negative sign. And then that bottom part that we have is basically the denominator came from right here where we brought that down. Let's try another one. All right, so here we've got x squared plus 8x plus 18. We're dividing by x plus 5. So again, I'll go a little faster here, but let's set it up. Let's write it out. X squared plus 8x plus 18. We are dividing by x plus 5. All right, and I'll go ahead and write my divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. All right, let's get that first variable going right over there. X goes into x squared. Again, this is going to work nicely. It's going to go x times right there. Clean that x up a little bit. And let's multiply it. X times x there is going to get me x squared. And x times 5x there is going to get me 5x. So I'll put plus 5x. Looks just like that. So we've done our divide, sorry, did our multiply. We got to do our subtract step right over here. So let's do our parentheses. It's going to be our negative, so that's going to come in and switch everything around. That gives me a subtraction sign there. And then it's actually going to switch my plus sign right there is actually going to change over to a subtraction sign right there. All right, integer operations, okay? All right, let's work our math right over here. We get a cancel out right here, so I'm not going to put it, it's going to be a 0. Right here I've got 8x minus 5x. Well, that should give us just a regular 3x. Subtract, and then we're going to bring down. Let's bring down the plus 18. And let's go back to the beginning here, back to the divide step. I've got my first variable there, I've got my variable there, and let's divide. X goes into 3x, it's just going to be 3 times. So I'm going to put plus 3, switch over and do that in the dark. So x plus 3. And then let's go with our multiply step. That was divide. Let's go with our multiply. 3 times x. That gets me 3x. Very good. Forgot to wipe that out a little bit. 3 times 5 right there. And here's where we get that switch up a little bit. 3 times 5 is 15. So I'm going to get a plus 15. Probably notice already this is not going to zero out once we go and we solve. So I am going to do my subtraction step. We're going to put this. We can kind of throw our signs in here and switch everything around. That changes that to a negative. That comes around over here. Really, it should say a subtraction sign. Changes that to a subtraction sign. Clean it up in here a little bit, and let's do the math and figure out what the remainder is. Well, I get a cancel situation here, and then right here, it's 18 minus 15. Well, that's going to be just 3, regular 3. And no x, no nothing. That is my remainder. I don't have an x. Again, x can't go into it. I'm done with that remainder. So I've got my information. We've got our solid answer at the top, x plus 3. So I'm going to put x plus 3. Now I have a positive 3. So positive 3 means I can put a plus here instead of a minus in the first example. This is a plus because it's a positive 3. Plus 3, let's do that in purple, over, and what do we put it over again? We put it over this value right over here that we divided by. So we're going to put over x plus 5, okay? And that's how we'll write that out for a solid answer right there. All right, so why don't you try one right over here? So I'm going to put this one up. We've got x squared plus 4x plus 38, and we're going to divide it by x plus 8. Write this down real quick. Go ahead and set it up so you kind of draw out your division here, write your number in, and then pause it and go ahead and solve it ahead of me here and see how you do at getting the answer with the remainder. We've got x squared plus 14x plus 38. Make sure we have it written in correctly for you guys. And then we're going to divide by x plus 8. So write it out. Follow the steps we've been following. Pause it, solve it, and then you can kind of unpause it and see how you do. So go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so I'm going to jump in here and put it together pretty quick. I'll go a little faster here. But x goes into x squared right over there. We should get a solid, just regular x. We've had a lot of that, just pretty basic. X times x after that will get you x squared. Then x times 8 will get you a plus 8x, just like that. We'll subtract it out. Switch to orange here. Parentheses, not great, parentheses. Bring in the negative sign, which will switch that out. And it'll turn that, into a subtraction sign. I'll wipe that out. And we do our math. We cancel out there. I've got 14x minus 8x. Should get you 6x, bring down plus 38. Okay, gone that far. Let's go back to our beginning variable. Let's go x into 6x. That's going to be 6 times. So I'm going to positive 6. I'll put a plus 6 out over there. Let's do our multiply steps here. Multiply steps would be 6 times x, which is 6x. And then 6 times 8, which is going to get you a plus 48. Make sure you got your multiplication there. 6 times 8 plus 48. Subtraction steps, parentheses go. Subtraction. That's going to turn that into taking away the 6x there, I apologize, and then turning that into subtraction there. We can draw our line out, and we're not going to get it zeroed out, of course. When we subtract, we get 0. 38 minus 48 is a negative 10, so you should have a negative 10 kind of hanging out as the remainder on this one. So when we write it in, as we get this, we can write x plus 6 minus, so we're going to have the minus, and then we're going to have 10 over, and what we put underneath, we'll have an orange, we'll have that x plus 8. So check that real quick. Hopefully you got down to the answer, got pretty close with the dividing with a remainder. Just follow the kind of the same steps as our regular dividing, and then making sure you write it correctly with your remainder on top, and then your value divide by there in the numerator spot.